Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on this edition of Business Daily. I'm Lee in Seoul. Let's get started with a look at today's highlights. The finance minister expects the Korean economy to see solid growth in 2018 and plans to focus next year's economic policy on creating more jobs while boosting innovative growth. The UN Security Council is set to vote on a resolution stepping up sanctions on North Korea by restricting oil supplies in response to Pyongyang's latest ballistic missile test last month. These stories and more coming right up. Korea has enjoyed solid economic growth this year on the back of strong exports and the recovering global economy. And at a press meeting today, the country's chief economic policymaker wrapped up his view of the Korean economy and touched on the prospects for next year. Our Kim Hae-sung starts us off.
Korea has posted solid economic growth in 2017 and is on track to reach the $30,000 per capita GDP milestone in the upcoming year. At a press meeting on Thursday, Finance Minister Kim Dong-yeon said 2017 marked a year of stable GDP growth, recording 3% for the first time since 2014. This despite North Korea's nuclear threat and external uncertainties such as trade protectionism and easing monetary policies. If Korea breaks the $30,000 per capita GDP mark next year, it would be the third Asian country after Japan and Australia to do so and the ninth among the OECD member nations. But the minister emphasized that the Korean people's quality of life in terms of housing, income, and health hasn't kept pace with rising per capita GDP. He said tackling income inequality is key to raising the quality of life and said the government will look into tax policies and fiscal policies to redistribute wealth. To maintain the strong pace of economic growth into next year, the finance minister said job creation, boosting innovative growth, and tackling the low fertility rate will be some of the top priorities. Further details of the government's economic policies for 2018 will be announced next week. Kim Hae-sung, Business Daily.
Let's now get a look through how the markets fared here in Korea on the last trading day of the week. For more on that, we connect to our Lee Ju-young on the phone. Ju-young.
Hi, June. The Kospi plunged nearly 2% yesterday, but rebounded on Friday as investors went bargain hunting. At the closing bell, the benchmark Kospi inched up 0.44% and at 2440.54. The junior Kosdaq also rose for the first time in 5 trading days by 2.82% to exceed the 760 level. On the foreign exchange counter, the Korean won strengthened to 1,079.7 won against the dollar. Experts say the country's equity market showed a sharp decline due to temporary supply and demand imbalances on the previous day, but rose slightly today thanks to foreign investors and institutions who came to buy low. Foreigners recorded net purchases of roughly $124.7 million, while institutions also picked up a net $360 million worth of shares. Shares of Samsung and LG Electronics also rose, gaining 1.14% and 0.7% respectively, recovering from a 3% plunge from yesterday.
Now, I'm also hearing that Chinese consumer-related stocks are not performing so well.
Yes, that seems to be the case. This is after China has reinstated a ban on tour groups to Korea, saying they won't send group tours to Korea starting from January next year. This news sent stocks of cosmetics firms and casino operators, as well as duty-free shops, to drop as investors worry about weakening sales. This has been Lee Ju-young for Business Daily.
North Korea is suspected to be the culprit behind a recent cyber attack on a cryptocurrency exchange here in South Korea. According to the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg, South Korean investigators are looking into Pyongyang's possible involvement in the heist. Experts say the probe into the hacking of Seoul-based exchange Ubit could take several weeks. Ubit lost 17% of its assets in the attack, forcing it to declare bankruptcy on Tuesday. Citing people familiar with the situation, the Wall Street Journal said North Korea, which is facing heavy international sanctions, is turning to hacking to raise funds. And the U.S. has introduced a new draft resolution at the UN Security Council requesting even tougher sanctions on North Korea. The vote on the proposal will take place later on Friday, and China and Russia are not expected to veto the measures. Our Kwon Jang-ho has this report.
The UN Security Council will vote Friday local time on a new US-led draft resolution on North Korea that has been introduced in reaction to the regime's latest ballistic missile test in late November. According to Reuters and AFP, the new resolution will look to ban nearly 90% of refined petroleum product exports to North Korea by capping them at 500,000 barrels a year, building on the previous resolution in September that set a limit of 2 million barrels. Crude oil exports to the regime have also been capped at 4 million barrels a year. All North Korean nationals working overseas would also have to be repatriated within 12 months, and the list of banned North Korean exports would also be extended to include food products, machinery and electrical equipment, as well as certain stones and minerals. 19 individuals and firms would be added to a growing international blacklist as well, freezing their financial assets and imposing a travel ban. North Korea's closest ally, China, is not expected to use its veto after the US negotiated the draft with Beijing over the past week. Although it does not include a complete ban on oil, as suggested by President Trump to President Xi Jinping last month, China's go-ahead would still be seen as a significant measure. More so, as China has not yet approved a different proposal by the US. Washington had asked the Council to blacklist 10 ships, including 2 Hong Kong-flagged vessels and a Chinese tugboat, which are said to be carrying banned oil and coal products to and from North Korea. China and Russia have requested more time to examine that proposal, and the decision for approval to blacklist the ships will now take place on December 28th. Kwon Jang-ho, Business Daily.
The U.S. Congress has passed a temporary spending bill to keep the federal government running for 4 more weeks, averting a shutdown crisis. The Senate voted 66-32 for the extension, a few hours after the House of Representatives passed the same bill. The measure keeps the U.S. government from closing down at midnight Friday and also extends funding for the Children's Health Insurance Program through March. Disputes on immigration, healthcare, and the budget have been postponed until next year. The number of annual passengers passing through Incheon International Airport has exceeded 60 million for the first time. According to Incheon International Airport Corporation, 60.18 million passengers had arrived or departed from the hub as of Thursday, nearly 2.4 million more than last year. The total figure is expected to reach 62 million by the end of the year. Korea's main air hub has seen its number of passengers grow by an average of 6.8% annually since its opening in March 2001. The corporation attributed the increase to a rise in overseas trips and low-cost airlines. Social media has exploded in popularity in recent years, and now it's fast becoming the way to shop. SNS Marketing is Korea's fastest-growing shopping platform, targeting customers with a personalized approach while creating a buzz through special offers and events. Our Won Jung-hwan has more.
Social network services have become the fastest-growing shopping platform, outperforming other platforms like TV home shopping or internet shopping malls, and creating a buzz in South Korea. SNS is being used by firms not just to share information about their products, but to also sell their products directly and promote them with special offers and events, like one held last week through SNS involving over 1,000 companies.
The first edition of 12 to 12-day event was held to build consumer interest within the SNS market and provide users with an opportunity to purchase quality products at a highly discounted price.
SNS Marketing uses social media platforms to connect consumers with products through virtual communities and allow firms to interact with customers and provide products tailored to their needs. The CEO of Monica Room, one of the first companies to use SNS Marketing in Korea, says that its big advantage over conventional marketing is the ability to adapt to customers' personalized needs.
We visit our customers' SNS pages and we communicate with them as they receive our news feeds. If you compare SNS with general online shopping malls, SNS platforms can communicate one-on-one with people. and this can lead to customized sales marketing to each individual.
Traditional online shopping platforms are often limited to telling people what to buy, with few mechanisms to obtain customer feedback. But the open nature of SNS allows participants to share their views and feedback on brands, products, and services.
On traditional platforms, marketing is often viewed as brand storytelling. But if you look at SNS marketing, it is more like brand story doing, meaning that customers and viewers are actively taking part in selling a brand's products.
As customers can ask questions and voice their concerns directly to companies through social media, they can make more informed purchasing decisions, leading to fewer returned products or requests for refunds.
As we continue posting reliable information, those who like our information visit our products' websites, and a relationship of trust between the buyer and seller forms within the online platform.
But there are also costs to marketing through SNS. Since SNS is mostly about one-on-one communication, companies need to hire personnel to handle social media interactions. And the viral way information spreads through SNS doesn't always work in the company's favor.
Since SNS marketing often engages through live platforms, any negative reviews or comments regarding a company can suddenly spread to all those people who follow the company.
But at the same time, the live nature of SNS can help create a positive buzz around the product and drive social shopping among SNS users. As followers of a product repost comments made by others, a small piece of marketing can reach a large audience. But companies can't sit back and be passive when it comes to social media. Nearly 2.5 billion people around the world use some sort of social media. But a large number of audience on social media does not always translate into strong sales figures. The real key to success is the increasing audience activity and engagement with the product. SNS marketing is trying to break out from the sectors where it was first introduced, like fashion and cosmetics. Now it's possible to buy such varied items as agricultural products through social media platforms. By reducing distribution costs and allowing people to purchase fresh products straight from the source, SNS marketing is bringing convenience and efficiency to both companies and consumers in South Korea. Won Jung-wan, Business Daily.
Japanese automaker Toyota has unveiled its first humanoid robot in more than a decade, signaling its return to the industry. Could these robot helpers be the future of elderly care in Japan? Our Elliot Kim tells us more.
Toyota's humanoid THR-3 robot was unveiled at the International Robot Exhibition held in Tokyo from November 29th to December 2nd. The company kept the whole project impressively under wraps, with press releases comprising nearly all of the available information prior to the convention. While Honda's Asimo robot helper has often taken center stage, Toyota has been working on this project since revealing its last model in 2005, waiting over 10 years before showcasing what it's calling its third-generation model. The THR-3 has been designed to explore how robots could assist the elderly in a country coping with a rapidly aging population.
Humanoid robots are very popular among Japanese people. That's why we continued to work on humanoid robots such as these since the 2005 World Exhibition in Aichi Prefecture. We've used the technology we've accumulated over the years in fields such as rehabilitation, along with creating other robots. But creating one like this has always been our dream, and it's why we continued to pursue it.
A user operates the machine via an exoskeleton called the Master Maneuvering System. The system includes a vast array of sensors that give users control of the robot's arms and legs. It also uses a VR helmet which allows users to see through cameras mounted on the robot and force feedback vibrations for real-time sensations.
We're primarily focused on making this robot a very family-oriented one, so that it can help people, including care services.
Toyota envisions THR-3 being used in a variety of environments, from home and medical facilities to construction sites, disaster-stricken areas, and even outer space. Elliot Kim, Business Daily.
Time now for a look through some important global business headlines from the week with our Eunice Kim joining us in the studio today. Hello, Eunice.
Happy Friday.
All right, so with the Bank of Japan's monetary policy meeting this week, where you wrap the year in central banks. Now, is the year 2018 shaping up to be very different from 2017?
Well, certainly overall liquidity is probably going to shrink in 2018, right, as central banks either scale back their easing policies or, in the case of the Fed, continue on its tightening path. So where do the world's consequential central banks stand as we head into the new year? Here's your central bank roundup. On Thursday, the Bank of Japan affirmed its stance at its final monetary policy meeting for 2017. The short-term interest rate stayed put at negative 0.1%, as the 10-year government bond yield target was kept at 0. Still, Governor Haruhiko Kuroda acknowledged the world's third-largest economy saw a better-than-expected year of growth, in part thanks to a recovering global economy.
In general, the overseas economy is gradually growing. Exports are also steadily increasing. In terms of domestic demand, the outlook for infrastructure investment and corporate revenue is recovering and continuing on a gradual growth path.
Inflation, albeit still a ways from its 2% target, was on an uptrend, according to a BOJ statement, putting Japan's economy on a path of moderate growth into 2018. While Kuroda ruled out a near-term revision to the central bank's policies, hinting consumer prices were the key to such a change, he also left open the possibility that rates could turn higher even before inflation touched 2%. Across the continent over in Europe, the Bank of England is looking at a challenging year, in part for the exact opposite trend, inflation that's overshooting. Governor Mark Carney was required to pen a letter to the Chancellor of the Exchequer earlier this month, explaining why the consumer price index had risen to 3.1% in November, the highest on-year change in nearly 6 years. Inflation and the plunging pound, perhaps the most poignant signs foretelling the uncertainty that is to come in 2018, as Prime Minister Theresa May and her government get deep into the phase 2 of Brexit negotiations, forging a new trade relationship between the UK and the EU. Meanwhile, European Central Bank Governor Mario Draghi is feeling pretty good. The Eurozone economy looks quite different today than the one that was muddled in crisis in recent years. Growth is picking up to its fastest pace in 7 years, as unemployment falls across the bloc, gains also seen in once aching countries like Spain and even Greece. In the new year, the ECB is set to maintain its tapered quantitative easing program, having cut its monthly bond purchases to half at 30 billion euros through September. But at the head of the tightening curve is none other than the U.S. Central Bank. The Federal Reserve under Chair Janet Yellen has managed a stable unwinding of its QE program. With 3 rate hikes under her belt, the markets were practically unresponsive when Yellen guided the 4th revision up last week. Still, investors will keep an eye out for the Fed's path in 2018, under the helm of presumed successor Jay Powell, as well as several other new members, as America's fresh tax reforms take effect and the U.S. recedes further from its global leadership under the Trump administration.
So it looks like central banks certainly did their part. And of course, global trade will continue to be a barometer of economic health next year. But on this note, what's the status of the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal?
Right. So with Washington out of the picture, it's Tokyo that's really taken the helm to save the massive trade deal that has the capacity to reshape the economic landscape of the Asia-Pacific region. At least that's the idea. Japan has its eyes on holding a signing ceremony for the TPP Trade Pact in late February or early March next year in Chile. It could be a multilateral free trade bloc of 10 countries instead of 11, though, as Canada appears to have been hit with a case of cold feet. Yomiuri Shimbun reports Japan is currently working
to persuade Canada to sign on to the document, but adds it will proceed with the 10 other countries in the framework, even if Canada were to hold off. Now, after each country clears all necessary domestic hurdles to ratify the deal throughout the 2018 year, the goal is to implement the unprecedented multilateral free trade deal in 2019.
Meanwhile, you're hearing that employees of some U.S. multinationals are in for a nicer Christmas, as they've been promised some bonuses right on the heels of a new tax reform bill that successfully went through both houses of Congress.
Yep, year-end bonuses are back, and this is a little bit of a different kind. Companies like AT&T and Comcast are promising $1,000 bonuses to their hundreds of thousands of workers, selling it as an effect of the historic passage of the U.S. tax reform bill this week. U.S. President Donald Trump and his Republican Party, of course, had been pushing the reforms as a Christmas gift to the middle class, a claim the Democratic Party had vehemently dismissed. AT&T was the first company to publicize its plans to, quote-unquote, trickle down its tax savings to its non-management level workers. It said the one-time $1,000 bonus could come up before the year is up if President Trump signs the bill into law before Christmas. It remains to be seen, though, whether he will go ahead and do that as he had alluded or wait until January. Comcast followed suit by announcing its own one-time $1,000 bonuses as scandal hit Wells Fargo said it would raise its minimum wage to $15 an hour with the adoption of the new tax law. And finally, a notable development in the sharing economy. Ride-hailing app Uber was dealt with a blow this week after the European Court of Justice ruled it was not a digital service, but a transport company. This ruling was a victory for a Barcelona taxi drivers group, which argued Uber was not qualified to apply EU rules on the freedom to provide services, which exclude transportation services. The ruling, which would apply to all EU states, cannot be challenged and would put the ride-hailing service under stricter regulations, not to mention require licensing as a taxi operator. It also holds a symbolic significance that could also impact other online businesses in Europe in the coming years.
Well, definitely expecting further developments on that front.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming in today.
You bet.
And that wraps it up for today and this week. And because next Monday is Christmas, Business Daily will be back on Tuesday, December 26th with the day's top business stories. So don't forget to tune in then. Thanks so much for watching and Merry Christmas.